What's up, everybody? I'm Caleb Bishop, coming at you live from Pitbull Audio here in San Diego. Today, we've got a very special live stream with our friends from Korg here. This is Dan Krisher. He comes from LA, and today we're going to be talking about the Wavestate. The Wavestate is a re-envisioning of a classic design from about 3 decades ago called the Wave Station, but it is also a lot more than that. So, without further ado, Dan, how are you doing today?
I am doing awesome. How are you doing, Caleb?
Doing good, thank you.
So I am so excited to be here. I want to thank everybody at Pitbull Audio. The team is so amazing, and I'm so excited and honored to be speaking to your audience. So thank you.
Same. It's really great. So can you tell us a little bit about what we're going to be talking about today, as far as just the simple concepts of the synthesizer itself? Maybe give us a little bit of sounds and just a mission statement as far as the idea behind this.
Yeah, let's get right into it. So I'm going to start off with just giving you a few playing examples so you can kind of hear what's going on. And then I'm going to do a quick run through of specs to kind of explain what you are seeing. But first thing I want to say is the Wavestate is not a reissue of the Wave Station. I'll talk about that in a moment, but it harkens back to the original concept of the Wave Station. So the Wavestate is a very different sort of instrument. So give me an idea. Again, this is all about taking not oscillators in a synthesizer and making sounds, but taking actual samples or multi-samples and creating sounds in motion. Okay, so that's kind of crazy, but you can do things like this. So rhythmic sounds. And then
So looking at the motion lanes there up in the top, it's not only rhythmic, but it's also polyrhythmic. Well, if you want it to be, huh?
Yeah, definitely so. Definitely so. And what I want to show you is something that's very, very unique to this instrument. And it's something called patch remain. And what that means is the ability to be able to seamlessly flow from one patch to another without the effects or the sound itself being cut off. In most romplers or wave players, that's usually a problem because of the DSP. So when you switch from one patch or performance to another, it cuts off until you press the key bed. This is totally different. So check it out. I'm gonna go back to this first crazy patch. And now bring in another sound. So again, absolutely seamless transition between performances. That's very, very important. You can almost put together a full performance right from the front panel, okay? One other thing that I want to show you too, as far as just a quick introduction to sounds, you are able to get to your performances very easily just by turning the front knob at all times. You can also arrange them along the sequence steps. These are multi-function buttons. They can be used for sequencing. They can also be used right now for a set list. You have 64 places that you can store performances for a set. But what I want to do is show you something that's very important to know about the Wavestate. You have a 37-note keyboard, full-size keys, which is great, but please imagine this as an 88-note instrument because that's how these samples are arranged. So check this out. This is this would be a great patch if you're doing like film scoring or game scoring. It's called Gates of Hades. Okay, so check it out. I'm gonna hit the D key here. change my octave. So again, when you're auditioning sounds, don't just trust what's in the key bed at the moment. Play around with the octave controls and you'll find a whole slew of different types of sounds and motion within each individual performance. Okay, quick, I want to go over specs real fast. All right, 240 performances that are pre-assigned. You get to those simply by turning the wheel. And the great thing is there's no audition feature because you audition in real time. So again, it's very, very easy to choose your performances. Okay, performance is also made up of programs. There's 740 already made programs. Programs are like a patch, and then 1,000 wave sequences. Okay, 1,000 different sequences inside this to be able to add motion to all the different aspects. All right, think of a program as a single patch. All right, that's how you think of it. And again, as I mentioned prior when I was speaking to Caleb, one of the things that you want to think about in the Wavestate is that it is really 4 synthesizers combined. And the way the architecture works is a performance is created from 4 different layers, okay? And in each layer is its own synthesizer engine. And within that synthesizer engine, you have 12 different filter types. You have 5 different effect categories with up to 14 active at one time, unique and independent controllers for each layer, controllers being our performance knobs here, pitch, mod, the vector joystick, and then some other pre-programmable controls. 64 voice polyphony, and basically the polyphony you manage. That's because you're managing how you're putting together all the information when you put together a performance. And again, I showed you the patch remain. And then another feature we'll go over soon is this button here. There's a button that looks like it has a dice over it. That's our randomizer. And the randomizer lets you do some very cool creative things with the content that you're creating. All right, so what I'm going to do next is get into making some sounds. How's that sound, Caleb?
That sounds awesome. But before we jump into that, I actually just noticed they're showing the effects. I know you've got a lot of really cool emulations of like the MS2 filter and stuff there, but would you mind kind of telling us about the effect types and what they're doing as far as their installations and all?
Oh yeah, definitely. Let me do this. Pull up
And also, anyone else got any questions? We are giving away a Volca that you'll be able to choose whichever one you want. So feel free to ask questions. We'll be choosing someone at the end of stream.
Awesome. So for your effects, you've got, first of all, you've got a pre-effect. So think of that as an insert effect on the initial output of the signal. So we can add things like EQ, compressors, ring modulator. So this one I've got the compressor chosen. Then we've got modulation effects. All right, modulation effects being chorus, reverb, chorus, flange, phasers, things like that. Again, if you want to get into anything on the Wavestate, all you have to do is just press enter. It gets you into a menu. Actually, those are my delays. Sorry, let me get back into the chorus. Yes, we got a phaser there. Delays.
So have a really pristine quality to them.
Yeah, and again, let me show you something else. Okay, let's do this. And again, everything's tempo sync, so I just changed the tempo. So don't even have to worry about that. And then our reverbs, again, a lot of the effects come from either classic Korg instruments. There's also Vox effects built in and some other branded effects. Reverb. So. And then you also have immediate real-time control of effects. So if I want to get in, make everything dry, you can do that right away. So again, one of the things I hope you see is I've got all of this real-time control while I'm either in the studio or while I'm performing with my effects. Okay. So Caleb, are we ready to start making some sounds?
Yeah, let's jump into it. I'm
Okay.
curious, you did say, it's very much more about the motion and the ability to make a big sound, but I'm curious, like you said, just starting with something as far as the samples go, are there basic wave tables and such? Like, could you start with the saw wave and kind of create a respace or something like that?
I can totally do that. And it's funny because I get that question a lot. So what you're going to do whenever you want to create your own custom performance, make sure in performance, where I am now, simply turn the wheel and go to the top of the list. And you'll find at the top init performance. That's basically a performance template that you can use to create your own custom performance. So this performance is very basic. It has wave sequencing in it. So you can see we're alternating between two steps. So we've got basically two samples that are sequenced. Okay. With the wave state, you can work in two modes. You can work with wave sequences on a layer, or what Caleb was asking, a multi-sample. So there's a very traditional piano patch. I should say raw piano sample. I'm going to go in and find just a regular sort of synth patch.
So just while we're setting this up, also, we've got someone asking from YouTube. Their name is Moon Blackbird, and they're saying, what do you mean with different layers, as in oscillators? So could you explain the difference there? Because we're not exactly working with oscillators, obviously.
Right. So what we're talking about, and what was the person's name?
Moon Blackbird.
Hey, Moon Blackbird. So what layers are is in each you can think of a layer essentially as an independent synthesizer, and within a layer is the sound generator, which is going to be either the multi-sample that you choose for that specific layer or for that specific step. And then along with that layer is not just, again, the sound data that you're choosing and that you're creating, then it's also within each layer, it's also the synth side. So again, each layer, and you'll see this in a moment, each layer works as its own separate synthesizer. And you can have the layers run independently. You can have some layers sync with each other. You can have them all synced to each other. Think of them literally as 4 separate synthesizers. And then we're tying them all together within the wave state. All right. So to get to
awesome. Yeah, we'll save most of the questions for the end there. I just thought that was quite relevant to jumping into initial.
Totally. Now, one of the things that's great about this synth is that it has great menus. So in order to basically find your content, you can easily switch over and find just about anything that you want. Okay, so I'm going to choose a very kind of 80s raw. This is called Analog Strings 1. So I'm just going to work with this. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to our filter section, just like a traditional synth. Okay. Again, our envelope section is right here. And this is our filter section. So our envelope, just the ADSR a little bit. Let's give it a nice long release. And then after that, we can go to our effects, our pre-effect. Let's see what's assigned to that. Compressor, that's good. Let's put some chorus on that. And to turn on any button, just press it twice. Nice big 80s chorus there. So with our delay. And let's hit some reverb. So already I have a patch, and that's just one layer. So as I was saying to Moon, I forget the rest of your name, I'm sorry.
Blackbird.
Moon Blackbird. Okay, so I've got this on one layer. Just a very traditional synth string patch. Let's go to another layer. I'm going to turn this off for a second. Let's go to this layer, layer B. And same thing. Caleb asked me to demonstrate how to use this as a traditional sort of rompler. So on layer B, I'm going to put a brass. I'm going to construct a brass patch. And so I'm going to go over to my categories. And let's see what I've got here. Brass ensemble, perfect. So let's pick. Okay, I like that trombone section. So we've got that. And this time, instead of using the MS-20 filter, I'm going to use the... So I've got that. And again, my effects are all independent. So in this case, I'm just going to put a little bit of delay on here.
Do you have the option of routing the effects either pre or post filter?
You do. That's a great, yes, you do through the matrixing.
That's real cool.
Yeah. So let's put these two. Now I turned on layer A and layer B. So we got two layers playing now. Okay, that's great. They're both at the same octave though. Let's say I want to take layer B and put it down an octave. So I'm going to go here and just dial this. This is how we can adjust our let's get this. Yeah, there we go. So 2 layers already. And again, we're just playing. We're using those 2 layers as a traditional synthesizer, I would say. Cool thing is you can have traditional multi-samples on a layer, or you can have a layer also have a wave sequence. So let's add a wave sequence to layer C. And I'm going to actually solo that again to show you how it works independently. So to do that, our mode right now is set to single multi-sample. I'm going to change it over to wave sequence, go to my presets, and I'm back into all the different wave sequences that we have. Okay. And I'm going to choose kind of one of my favorites for this, which is for a second. Let me get here. Sorry, I was on the wrong. I was not on the right place there for a second. Okay. So I can have something like that if I want. Let's do something a little bit more interesting though. Okay. And again, I'm doing this purposely so you can see how easy it is just to go through and be able to audition and find different content that you want to use. So
I'm a big fan of how production ready all these sounds are.
What was that?
I'm a big fan of how production ready these just straight sounds are, like without even anything.
Oh yeah, it's great. So let's add this. So which one are all the layers on? Now, if I want, I can go in and continue adding more sequences if I want. Or on layer D, I can have another wave sequence. Let's actually change this over to one other thing for you, Caleb, which is I'm going to do a layer that is just an arpeggiation layer. Let's do that as well. And let's just use a traditional synth sound. And I don't like that. Let's do something different. Nice. Okay. So again, it's gotten a little crazy, but it's purposeful. So we got, and this.
So you're capable of using different types of arpeggiators and rates on the different layers, aren't you?
Definitely. So
that's real cool.
And again, I am just choosing content that's already here within the Wavestate as it is. So if you'll indulge me for a second, I'll show you how to actually sequence something on your own. So let's go to Caleb. Any questions at this point?
Yeah, we've got a few here. We may as well.
Why don't I answer a few?
Yeah. So Joseph Edward Karstens from Facebook is asking, is this Logue SDK compatible?
Can you say that? What was the question again?
Is it compatible with like the Prolog, Minilog SDK files?
Oh, you mean the custom oscillators?
Yeah.
Yes, it's a different type of architecture, so it does not use that kind of SDK.
Okay. And then several people are also asking in regards to an external editor or a VST that will support the Wavestate.
That I do not know about.
I've heard that there might be something in the works, but not currently, correct?
As far as from Korg has not notified me of anything. I'm sure there's probably third-party persons out there that are working on something.
Definitely. And also with the fact that there is the VST, the iWave station and such, it's not so far-fetched. So while it doesn't exist yet, you guys can just wait, and I'm sure you'll have your answer soon enough. And then one more we've got here. I mean, we've already answered it for Ron Potovich is, does it come with onboard effects like delay and reverb? Yes, it comes with a ton.
Yeah. Again, just to reiterate what we've got here, for your modulation effects, I mean, there is quite a lot of choices. And again, a lot of these are coming from classic Korg synthesizers. Same with delay, patterns, reverb. And then all of these can be customized too and stored as your own custom effect preset. So I hope I answered that question. All right, so what I want to show you next is, oh, I'm sorry, Caleb, any more questions?
Yeah, so we've got just a couple more. Boone Blackbird also is asking, is it good as a first synth? He was going to buy Minilog XD, but this is nice too. Maybe the Minilog is more appropriate for learning.
I would say the Minilog is good for anyone who is learning synthesis. I also think it's a pro board too. I mean, I use it when I play professional gigs. So it is, in my opinion, it's one of the easiest to learn synthesizers, but it's also one of the most powerful synthesizers, even if you're taking it into a professional situation. The thing that I want to say about the Wavestate, it will work as a traditional synthesizer. It will work as this amazing tool to be able to create really unique sounds that really are only coming from a few other platforms. And like Serum or some of the Atmosphere plugins, things like that. So this is all about taking sound and putting it in motion, and you can do it very easily. That's the thing. There is a very low learning curve to this. If you're already familiar with Korg synthesizers, you'll be able to pick it up pretty easily. As far as this first synthesizer, I would say yes, because again, you can do the things that a normal synthesizer can do, but then you can take this further. And that's one thing, Caleb, I like to emphasize. If you're investing in a keyboard, make sure that it's something that's going to last you for a long time in your studio. So think about that. Don't buy something that's just a trend. Look at it as something that could last you and be a tool for you for a long, long time. And this is definitely a keyboard that can last you for a long time in your studio.
That being said, I do also really love the Minilog, both the OG and the XD. I think they're really great synthesizers. So I suppose you're right in this, but also it definitely comes down to the personal question of what you want to achieve and what sounds you want, because this, like you said, can do that, but it can also do so much more.
Yeah, and again, if you're a sound designer, there's so much that you can do in this. I mean, it's pretty much limitless.
Yeah, I certainly think if you were doing scoring or any kind of original soundtrack, this thing would go miles further than the Minilog.
Now, I haven't read my CV, but one thing that I will say is I've been a product specialist for Native Instruments, and this is very similar to some of the tools that you have in Contact, like Damage, Kinetic Toys, things like that. Those are Contact instruments that are trying to do what the Wavestate does, taking long multi-sample loops and tearing them up into these crazy textures. So again, you can have traditional drum loops in this you can build, or you can, again, build very different, almost avant-garde sounding textures.
On the topic of drums, if we could pan into that, that'd be great. We've got Brian Hilmers from YouTube questioning. He's saying, let's hear the drums. Are there drums? Yes, there's definitely drums. So we'd love to hear that as well.
Yeah.
And Joseph Edward Karstens is asking if we could see the vector stick in action. So I think if we could do a little combination of that, that'd be great.
We could definitely do that. Okay. Let me start with the vector stick. Okay. So what I want to do is I'm pulling up a performance. It's called Bowing in Many Colors. And this is actually designed to show off the vector stick and the real-time control. So we've got So again, this idea of, I could have this in front of a video that I'm scoring and just, let's say, something with tension. So again, the way the vector stick is programmed is very, very simple. And let me show you pretty much how easy it is. Any of the controls can be, as I mentioned, mapped. So let's say I want to remap what the vector stick is doing. All I have to do is go to Mod, all right? And this is where I can do all this matrixing. So let's go back to Mod here, and let's add a new matrixing. So all I did is I held down Mod, I pressed plus, and the display walks me through everything. Add new modulation, move a target knob, or press enter. So as you saw, I just hit the vector stick and it jumped, right? And then I can assign whatever different parameter I want to the vector stick, just simply by moving the control that I want to use, hitting enter, and then hitting the target. And so that's how easy it is to program these. Now on the performance knobs, again, these are all programmed very similarly. And the other real-time control that you have is your loop start and stop. So what I mean is, let's go with our first loop. So if you check out the display, and I'll show you this in another patch, we can actually shorten the start and stop point of the loop. So right now it's 8 steps. I can shrink it down to 7, 6, 5, 4, whatever you need. Okay, but let's do this. Now I want to answer the question of regarding the
drum sounds.
Drum sounds, definitely. So let me pick and there's a lot in here. Let me pick one that I like particularly. Actually, let's use this one. It's already here.
I suppose with the 4 layers, you could easily turn it into a groove box, essentially, huh?
Yeah, you totally can.
And an advanced one at that.
So again, this is a great example of what I'm going to do quickly is I'll break this apart and show you how it's put together. So right now it's programmed as a split. So we've got, by the way, this is called morphing club scene. And then at the top, and so let's going to break it apart. So let's see what's on each lane. So lane A. So we've got kind of our hook there. And then B is our pad. Oh, that's interesting. Let me change that. And then D, here's our drums. Okay, so let's talk about the drums. All right, so what I did was I switched over to what's called WSEQ steps. That stands for wave sequence steps. So again, just like the mini log or the monologue, we've got these 16 buttons that are our sequence steps. So those are our sequence steps for our drum pattern. So what that is telling me is that this drum pattern is made up of 8 steps. Each of these steps, when I press the button, each step has its own sample assigned to it. And I can tell that in the display. So this says step 1 has, it's called kick driven. That step can also have its own timing. I can also adjust the pitch, again, how it's played and its modulation. So let's do just some kind of crazy things with changing up these samples here. So I just changed that hi-hat down a couple of octaves. And let's do step. And again, I'm just playing around with pitch. And down. So again, this is just adjusting the pitch of these specific steps. Now, if I wanted to go over and, let's say, play around with the timing, that's where things really get kind of crazy. So. Okay, so again, this is just one lane that I've just changed as far as assigning different pitch to each step. And at the same time, let's do this. Let's change it up even further. Let's change the sample that's on the step. Okay.
Would you be capable of editing effects per step?
Effects?
Yeah, like per step effects.
Yeah, definitely so. So, well, one thing to keep in mind, Caleb, effects are not sequenced.
Okay.
Yeah, effects are not sequenced. You have individual effects for each layer, but those are not sequenced. All right, but samples are sequenced. So right now we've got on step 2, there's a hi-hat. Let's change that up to like something that's very different. Let's put a different kick on there. There we go. And so. And let's assign one other. So you heard we got a timpani now there. And let's actually. So I hope that gives you an idea of, again, we're able to change the sample per step. We're able to change the pitch. Shape, basically, again, it can shorten or elongate how it's played. And gate is exactly what it sounds like. Gate is essentially, you can create a gate. So it can be a very clipped sort of start or a very, again, elongated sort of envelope on the sound. So we can bring back our other layers now. So it's very different from what we had before. Okay. However, there's one thing that I noticed when I was going through this, which was B. That's okay, but I kind of like to change that up into something more interesting. And so in this case, I'm going to go play with our randomizer again. So let's hit enter. And let's see what we get. Oh, that's kind of interesting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so again, it's pretty crazy. If you can get lost in this very quickly. I just randomized that layer again. That's actually really cool. If I can say that.
It seems like the randomizing feature is a real big source of inspiration and could definitely be good in a lot of toolboxes.
Yeah, actually, I like that. So I'm going to write that. So if you want to write something, you hit write. If you want to rename it, it's very simple. This is very, very Korg architecture, so everybody's probably pretty used to this by now. So I'll call this Dorphine Club Scene. There we go. And yeah, that sounds good. Okay, so I just wrote that to memory. Okay, but let's check out what we started with originally. Okay. Which is this. Totally different. Again, just with a few little minor adjustments, I got a different texture to that specific patch. All right. Excuse me, to that performance. All right. I want to do one other thing, Caleb, very, very quickly. Hopefully I've got the time, which is doing another knit performance. What I want to show you quickly is how to actually wave sequence. So in this, again, initial performance, I've got 2 steps in my sequence. And on these 2 steps are 2 different samples. Let's say I want to have a 4-step sequence or a 64-step sequence. So what I do is I go to my sample lane. All right, let me explain what a lane is real quick. All right, again, you've got 4 layers. Each layer is your synthesizer. And then within each layer is a lane. And a lane is a different parameter of a sample that you can manipulate. So that's what these are for, these lanes. So if I want to assign anything to a step, I go to a lane, and that's where I can find that content. So this first step, instead of having a this sort of waveform, let's put a kick on that. Let's build up like a drum loop for that. Okay, let's go here, and I'm going to go to categories and find my kick. That's my kicks, and let's do kick dry. Okay, so now I've got this. Now you're not hearing the kick at the moment because I've got to sequence the next step. So let's go to the next step, and same thing. Hit this, and I'm going to go to my categories. Kick. And same thing, let's do dance kick. That's it. Okay. Now you can see we've got some things that we need to adjust to get to our next layers. So right now we've got the kicks just playing on 1 and 2. So how do I get those additional steps that I need? Very simple. Everything's editable. Everything can be edited. So add steps to end. I can actually insert steps. I can delete steps. I can copy and move steps around. So let's add 2 to the end, which I just did. And so now when I play, I've got this, let's turn this down. So right now, again, we're just playing 2 steps. What I'm going to do is go to my loop end, and I'm going to change that to 4 steps and see what's happening now. So now you can see I've got 4 steps that have been added to my sequence. So let's go back to each step, all right? And just as we did before, I'm going to change it up just a little bit. So and let's put different. One other different sound here too. And Caleb, I'm not watching time, so please give me a time.
We're at 1:43 right now. We've been in for 43 minutes.
Great.
While we're there, Sparkles of Gold from YouTube asks, can you save patches or performances?
Can you save them?
Yeah, can you save them?
Yeah. Oh, most definitely. So, give you a quick example. So, kind of like what I did before. So let's go to. Okay, so I just did a really quick patch. So if I want to save that, all I have to do is go right. And right now it's named Init Performance. I can rename that to whatever I want. So I won't completely rename it, but Dan. So you get the idea. So you can name your performances.
So just curious regarding the memory of the performances. Right. How many can you save?
Korg says there's 10,000 memory locations.
Wow.
Yeah. So 10,000, and there is a librarian, by the way. That is available. So there is a patch librarian. Okay. So seeing that we have 15 more minutes, Caleb, where else would you like me to go with this?
I suppose we could just talk about, we've gotten the main concepts here as far as sound design goes and how you can easily stack and layer things. But could you tell us a little bit about the overall kind of vision you had when R&D started to come about creating this synthesizer?
Yeah. The whole goal was to continue to innovate this idea of sound and motion. And that's something that Korg has been in Korg's wheelhouse for a long time, not just with the Wave Station, but also with the Karma, that engine, and then with some of our other products. So the idea was this is sort of the time and technology where we could take and do what we wanted to do with audio that we've always been looking forward or looking in the future to do, but weren't necessarily able to in a keyboard version until technology actually caught up with what we were envisioning. So that's why we are at the place we are now with being able to create the Wavestate. The Wavestate was actually designed by the team here in the US, primarily along with some partnership with the engineers over in Japan. So it was the US R&D team that worked on this. That R&D team is many of the persons on that team are responsible for a lot of the patch content that you are familiar with in the mini log, monologue, prologue, etc. So a lot of our sound designers, most of that team are musicians. So they tried to think through just about everything that a musician would want. I've been trying to find things. I've been trying to find missing things. I haven't been able to find anything in this keyboard. Instead, I'm finding surprises. And what I would say, a lot of happy surprises. And as Caleb was saying, it was designed to be a creative instrument, an instrument to drive music inspiration, creativity, and to create one-of-a-kind sounds. That was the intent of the Wavestate.
Yeah, it definitely seems that way. As far as the dynamic movement of the sounds and the abilities you have to create things that are so far beyond static, it definitely not only I can see where you're coming with the whole musical, trying to invoke feelings almost. It's got this very strong emotional content to
Mm-hmm.
it that is just really amazing. And some of the patches we've seen, I know you said the R&D team, they've developed most of these patches. And whereas there's a couple things I've noticed that I think are really cool. There is the fact that, motion has just gotten more and more advanced with this device. It's taken it to a whole new level. But also the patches they've designed, it seems as if they've thought more out of the box as far as just music. They've also kind of opened up this doorway to a very composition and sort of original soundtrack ready machine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a very prescient way to say it. A soundtrack, almost kind of machine.
Was that a vision of theirs, sort of like just let's see how many things this can do, or was it more of a focused musical endeavor that wound up even more powerful than expected?
It was a very focused endeavor. One of the things that we looked at is, again, there's a lot of instruments out there. Again, I mentioned Contact and some of their instruments. Again, where what you're hearing in gaming, and if you're into scoring, you hear textures that are, as I was mentioning, very similar to Now, I want to comment that I have two programs playing simultaneously at that point. So if you noticed, I was keeping Dance Like Skippy, and then I have my sort of my 80s vibe, my 70s vibe here. Anyway, a little indulgent there, sorry, but again, I'm so excited just to point out how musical this is as well, this keyboard, because it doesn't, again, cut off the sound. It doesn't drop the sound. The audio is so good in this TSP. So hopefully that's a nice demonstration of how you can work with the sound just real time. One other thing I want to state, you get this out of the box, the very first thing you want to do is start going through these set lists, because that's where you'll find your inspiration. Just go to these 16 buttons first.
What's really cool about it too is, as far as you're saying, yeah, the DSP is just insane and extremely capable. The beauty of it too is that a lot of people that might be using contact other, real CPU intensive, they don't have the ability to use much of it. And this you can, and it's not affecting your RAM in any way.
Yeah. And again, it's, I don't want to change it off camera. It's incredibly portable, very, very light. It's built well, so it can take a beating. And as far as connectivity on the back, standard MIDI, USB, so you can connect with anything, interface with your rig, super simple.
Regarding the outputs, it's stereo output, correct?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
So are there any alternative configurations that you could do with that stereo output? Could you do a split multi-mono or something like that? Or is it strictly the stereo?
It's a standard stereo output. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, now, yeah, I was trying to think if there are any monophonic patches in this, but no, they're stereo.
Okay, cool. I suppose, yeah, that's the only question I had regarding that is because certain, club heavy sounds and whatnot, it's definitely something you want to look out for. But it sounds as if the sounds that you're getting out of that are already, processed well enough that they would be fine in monophonic, if there was some down.
Right. Okay. So where else would you like me to go?
From there, I'm still looking for questions. It looks like we're not showing up any. So, do you have access to the Pretty Pads All in a Row patch?
Pretty Pads All in a Row.
That was one I saw that was just amazing. Or as in general, it's a pad machine.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Okay. So was that the patch you were looking for?
That was, yeah. I just really wanted to hear that. Thank
you. And this is, again, it's a great patch. Excuse me, it's a great performance to analyze, because what you're looking at is, again, this has just one layer. It's just one layer. That's all that's happening right now. And on each of our steps, we've got some pretty interesting combinations of sounds. There's string sounds, synth sounds, flute, all arranged. But I want to show you one thing, Caleb, that you can do. All right, let's say we've got this. And one of the things that you can do also in the Wavestate is you can choose samples, but you can also choose presets for timings, presets for changing pitch, like And what I'm saying is that these are sequences that can change timing, sequences that only affect pitch, things like that. So I can go in and instead of using this timing on this patch, I can actually go pull a different one. So if you notice, my timing completely changed. So I'm using a totally different timing. And let's play around with that just a little bit more, because this is another way that you can easily be able to create your own content without getting marred in trying to learn the wave state right away. So let's do this. Let's go back to our morphing club scene. Okay, we'll go to our drums.
Love that bass, by the way.
Yeah, the bass is really good. All right, so what I want to do is I'm going to go to essentially my timing, and I'm going to switch it up. All right, let's change it on this. So I'm doing different timing sequences on each lane. And so now if I go to so again, I can rearrange the timing on the top, and I can also rearrange the timing on the bottom.
Seems like really capable as a very organic compositional box too. The way you can really just create next scene, and just subtle, very
And
seamlessly transition into each other.
Yeah, and the thing is I think what a lot of us do as musicians is when we find a parameter, what I like to do is have a happy accident. You know, it's when you're learning something, just get into it and just keep trying things. That's the thing. Everything in this can be auditioned in real time in the wave state. So you don't have to worry about or waste time trying to find inspiration. It's just you can go in and just start digging around, which is great. I mean, that's the whole idea of what a synth should enable you to do. All right. Looks like we have 1 more minute.
Yeah, awesome. Do we have any more questions here? How about live sequencing, says Brian Helmers from YouTube. Can you set a tempo and record what you play? Which also, I did have a question as well in regards to the sequencer on the melodic side of things. Is it at all similar to the mini-log or the monologue sequencer, or is it entirely linked to the keys?
It's similar. Again, that's one of the things that I was mentioning at the top of our discussion. Some of the architecture, again, harkens back to the mini-log, monologue, prologue. So yes, to answer your question, it's a definite yes as far as being able to sequence that way. But keep in mind, your sequencing goes way beyond just note values, rests, and timings in this sequencer. As far as can it record, work like let's say a workstation sequencer? No, it's very different than that. It can't record incoming audio data. So if you notice, there's no record or play switch on this. Everything is key triggered as far as our sequences are concerned.
So you need an external MIDI sequencer for that?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Now, an external, now, as I was mentioning right now, I have this hooked up to a sync box. So again, it's completely MIDI friendly. And the reason why, again, I like to demonstrate that is because I get that question a lot, which is, with so much going on, can it sync with my other devices? And again, the answer is definitely yes. So right now I've got my electrode playing. So I've got so there's my hit already.
Cool. Well, that's about our time for today. So I just want to say thank you again. It's been really great, just now and getting to talk about this synthesizer. And thank you for everyone, tuning in. It really means a lot to us. Sure to check your DMs because one of you is going to Volca. So anything you want to say before we go off here?
Yes, if you, I do a lot of these tutorials. Google my name, Dan Krisher, on YouTube. You'll find my channel. Also in August, I'm starting a weekly live cast called Ask a Product Specialist. So you can basically ask me any question that you want, not just about Korg products, but any other music tech question in real time.
Cool. Well, thank you again. And you have a great
day. And everybody, please stay safe and sane out there, please.
Definitely.
All right. Thank you so much, Caleb. Thank you, everyone. It was so great seeing and meeting everyone.
Thank you.
All righty.